The galaxy had always been vast and silent, a place where empires rose and fell like waves in the dark. For humanity, it was a distant horizon, a dream whispered in the old tales of explorers and scientists. Earth had sent probes and small fleets to the stars, but humanity was young and fragile, barely noticed by the older, stronger species that ruled the galaxy. They were observers, not warriors. Until now, the Draconian Armada came without warning. They were massive, relentless, and merciless. Systems that had stood for millennia were obliterated in a single strike. Entire fleets vanished before their allies could even react. Panic spread like fire through the Galactic Council. "We cannot stop them alone," whispered one admiral. But whispers of humanity reached them, voices full of doubt. "Earth has no fleet. They will fall easily. There is nothing to send." On the bridge of the Galactic Fleet's flagship Aurora, Admiral Kale watched the holographic map of the galaxy flicker with red zones. Worlds already conquered, worlds still burning. His crew looked grim, exhausted from endless battles, yet he did not waver. He had heard the rumors about humans, their adaptability, their stubbornness. "Do not underestimate them," he said quietly, his eyes fixed on the distant stars. "Even small sparks can start great fires." Far across the galaxy on Earth, the news of destruction arrived in fragments. Screens showed alien fleets striking peaceful planets, tearing cities into ashes, killing billions in a blink. Panic gripped the population, yet underneath the fear, determination grew. Earth's Dreadnoughts, the largest, most powerful warships ever built, had been hidden in secret hangars for decades. Their crews had trained tirelessly, preparing for a moment when humanity might finally defend itself among the stars. Captain Liana Voss of the Dreadnought Resolute stood on the bridge, staring at the black canvas of space. Her fingers brushed the control console, the hum of the ship vibrating beneath her palms. Her crew moved like clockwork, yet tension hung heavy in the air. "They think we are weak," she said softly to herself, "but they do not know us." Her voice carried a quiet fire, a determination that spread to every corner of the ship. The message from the Galactic Fleet arrived like a beacon in the void. "Earth, join the fight. The Armada grows. We cannot hold alone." It was not just a command, it was a challenge. Humanity had been ignored, underestimated, and overlooked for centuries. Now the galaxy itself asked for its aid, and Earth would rise to meet the call. Engines roared to life as the Resolute and her sister ships left Earth's orbit. The planet grew smaller behind them, a fragile blue world glowing in the darkness. Crew members held onto the railing, staring out at the infinite void, each silently promising to protect their home. They were no longer observers. They were warriors stepping into a war older than humanity itself. As the Dreadnoughts traveled toward the heart of the galaxy, stars streaked past like silver sparks. The enormity of the mission weighed on every soul aboard. Somewhere in the shadows, the Draconian Armada waited, unaware that a new force had entered the battle, a force driven not just by technology or strategy, but by courage, hope, and the stubborn human will to survive. Captain Voss took a deep breath, her eyes scanning the horizon. "Today we show them what it means to face humanity," she said. Her voice carried across the bridge, steady and unwavering. The crew straightened, hearts pounding, united by one thought. They would fight and they would endure. The galaxy was dark, dangerous, and unforgiving. But for the first time, humanity was not afraid. Humanity was ready. And somewhere in the vast void of space, the Armada would soon learn that the human spark, once kindled, could burn brighter than any star. The void of space was quiet, but it was a waiting silence. Every star, every shadow seemed to hold its breath. On the bridge of the Resolute, Captain Liana Voss and her crew stared at the incoming signals. Hundreds of ships moved like predators in the darkness, massive draconian warships bristling with weapons and shields that could melt entire planets. Voss's hands hovered over the control panels, steady and precise. Her voice broke the tense silence. "All hands, battle stations. Today, Earth joins the war. Let's show them what we are." The human dreadnoughts moved into formation, their engines glowing as they accelerated toward the enemy. Every ship's hull reflected the faint light of distant stars, making the fleet look like a river of fire winding through the void. Systems beeped, sensors scanned, and the crew felt the weight of every human life on board. Every life on Earth depending on them. When the first wave of draconian fighters approached, The human ships unleashed weapons in perfect synchronization. Energy pulses streaked through space, catching enemy fighters in nets of light that disabled their engines instantly. The Draconians had expected small, weak ships, easy prey, but humans fought differently. They moved not as individuals, but as one living organism, thinking together, reacting together. Admiral Kale, aboard the Aurora, watched the unfolding battle with awe. He had fought many species in the galaxy, each skilled in war, each deadly. But humanity? Humans fought with something no weapon could measure. Courage. They are more than we imagined, he murmured. They fight with fire in their hearts. The first clash was brutal. Explosions tore through space as plasma bolts collided with draconian shields. Small fighters attempted to swarm the Dreadnoughts, but every attack was met with calculated human precision. Engineers worked under pressure, rerouting power to shields when hulls were cracked, to weapons when enemy formations tried to outflank them. Medics ran from one wounded officer to another, saving lives with skill and calm in the chaos. On the Resolute, Voss coordinated with clarity. Target the lead cruiser. Fire at will. Her words were not just commands, they carried determination, and the crew responded with synchronized fury. The lead Draconian ship exploded in a brilliant shower of fire and metal, its destruction echoing across the void. The human fleet cheered not for pride but for hope. Hours passed like minutes. Human dreadnoughts endured relentless attacks. Ships were damaged, alarms screamed, and crews were pushed to the brink. Yet every time a Draconian vessel tried to break their line, humans adapted. New tactics were improvised on the fly. Missiles intercepted with energy shields. Fighters outmaneuvered enemy ships lured into traps of concentrated fire. Humanity's cunning was unmatched, and still the Draconian armada advanced vast and merciless. Each human victory was hard-earned, each lost ship a silent reminder of what was at stake. The crew of the Resolute paused only for a moment to breathe, hearts pounding before the next wave of enemies struck. By the time the first day of battle ended, dozens of Draconian ships were destroyed or disabled. The humans had held their line. The Galactic fleet, long weary and battered, finally breathed easier, inspired by Earth's bold entrance into the fight. Yet Captain Voss knew the war had only begun. The Armada would regroup. They would come back stronger. And humanity would have to be stronger still. Voss looked out at the stars beyond the bridge. "We've shown them who we are," she said softly. "Not because we have the biggest guns, but because we will never give up. Humanity doesn't surrender." Somewhere in the darkness, the Draconians took note. The species they had dismissed as insignificant now burned in their minds like a warning. Humans were not to be underestimated, and in that moment, the stars seemed brighter for the humans. They had stepped into the galaxy's war unafraid, unbroken, and ready to fight for every world, every life, every heartbeat. The void was vast and dangerous, but for the first time humanity had carved a mark among the stars, and the galaxy would remember it. After the first battle, the human dreadnoughts drifted in the quiet of space, engines humming softly as if they were catching their breath. The stars, once streaked with fire and explosions, now shone calmly, indifferent to the lives that had just fought and died among them. Captain Liana Voss walked slowly across the bridge of the Resolute, her mind heavy with the weight of responsibility. Hundreds of her crew had been injured, some lost, and yet every officer and sailor carried a spark that refused to fade. "Damage reports," she commanded, her voice steady but gentle. The communications officer quickly listed the wounded shields, scorched hull plating, and depleted energy reserves. Nothing catastrophic, yet every small flaw reminded the crew how close they had come to disaster. Voss nodded. They had survived the first wave, but she knew the Armada would not hesitate to return, stronger, more prepared. Below deck, medics worked tirelessly. Their hands moved with skill and care, treating burns, broken bones, and deep bruises. Every life saved felt like a victory, every tear shed a reminder of what was at stake. Among them, young ensigns whispered stories of the battle, wide-eyed, still trembling with adrenaline. Some spoke of fear, but every story ended with courage, laughter, or hope, a shared understanding that they were part of something greater than themselves. Meanwhile, Admiral Kale of the Aurora convened a council with the Galactic fleet commanders. "Earth's ships are unlike any we've seen," he said, eyes scanning the map of star systems still at risk. "They adapt, improvise, and fight with a determination that is human. It is both inspiring and dangerous for the Armada. The Council murmured agreement, but Kale could see the worry behind their eyes. The Draconians had not yet revealed their full strength. Humanity's entry into the War Etrur changed everything, but it had also drawn a target. Captain Voss stood alone for a moment in the observation deck, staring at the distant stars. Memories of Earth flickered in her mind. Cities lit at night, oceans stretching endlessly, forests rustling in the wind. She had left all of that behind, yet her love for home fueled every decision she made. She whispered to herself, "We fight not just for survival. We fight for our world, our families, our future. They will not take it from us." Training continued even in the calm. Engineers simulated new strategies. Gunners practiced faster response times, and navigators calculated potential enemy movements. Every crew member knew that this quiet was temporary, a fragile pause before the storm. The Resolute was more than a ship. It was a symbol. Humanity's courage, ingenuity, and unity were etched into every hull plate, every energy conduit, every bridge console. Outside, the stars seemed to hum with anticipation. Sensors picked up faint energy signatures in the distance. The Armada was regrouping. They would not forget humanity's defiance, nor would they forgive the losses they had suffered. The calm was a deceptive friend, a moment to prepare for the fire that would come. Voss called a meeting with her senior officers. "We have shown the galaxy our strength," she began, "but our journey is just beginning. The Armada will return, and they will come prepared. But we are not afraid. We will meet them together, as one crew, one fleet, one species. Our courage is our greatest weapon." The officers nodded, faces firm, hearts steady. There was fear, yes, but also an unshakable resolve. As the Resolute and her sister ships moved quietly through the stars, each crew member reflected on their role in the coming battle. For the first time, humans understood the power they carried, not just weapons or ships, but hope, determination, and the unbreakable will to protect what they loved. And somewhere far away, in the cold emptiness of the galaxy, the Draconian Armada's commanders took note. Humanity was no longer a cornered species to be crushed. They were predators, warriors, and survivors, and the war had only just begun. The stars, indifferent as ever, waited silently. But in the hearts of the humans aboard the Resolute, fire burned brighter than any distant sun. The calm was ending. The storm was coming, and humanity would face it head-on. The calm did not last long. Sensors aboard the Resolute flickered with warnings. The Draconian Armada was returning, faster, larger, and more relentless than before. The fleet had learned from their first encounter, and now they brought reinforcements, warships bristling with new weapons and shields stronger than anything humanity had faced. The void of space seemed heavier, darker, as if the stars themselves sensed the impending storm. Captain Liana Voss stood at the center of the bridge, her eyes sharp, her mind racing through strategies. "All hands, brace for engagement," she commanded. Her voice carried not fear but resolve. The crew moved like a single organism, checking weapons, reinforcing shields. Running drills they had practiced 100 times but now executed under the weight of reality. The first wave of Draconian ships appeared like predators descending from the darkness. Their massive hulls glimmered with deadly energy, and their weapons glowed ominously. Yet humanity did not flinch. The Dreadnoughts formed a defensive formation, shields interlocked, engines blazing, ready to meet the enemy head-on. "Target the lead cruiser," Voss ordered. "Concentrate fire!" Focus on their formation. Energy bolts streaked across the void, hitting enemy hulls with pinpoint precision. Human ingenuity showed itself in every maneuver. Flares to confuse targeting systems, magnetic nets to immobilize ships, synchronized volleys that disabled shields in seconds. Admiral Kale on the Aurora watched the human fleet in awe. "They do not fight like any species I've seen," he murmured. "They anticipate, adapt, and strike with courage. The humans, they are extraordinary." His officers exchanged worried glances. The Draconians had underestimated humanity once. They would not survive the second mistake. Explosions lit the void as the battle intensified. Fighters swarmed the Dreadnoughts. Plasma torpedoes tore through space, and alarms screamed across the ships. Yet the humans responded with unity and precision. Engineers rerouted power under extreme pressure. Medics worked tirelessly to save the injured, and gunners fired relentlessly, refusing to give ground. In the heat of the chaos, Voss felt a moment of fear, a flicker of doubt. but she pushed it aside. Every life aboard the Resolute, every person on Earth, depended on their victory. She focused on the mission, on the strategy, on the determination that had carried humanity this far. "We will not break," she whispered. "We will endure. We will win." The Draconians pressed harder, unleashing massive plasma storms and missile barrages. The Resolute rocked under the assault, shields sparking and hull plating buckling. Crew members shouted orders and status updates, every second a life-or-death decision. Yet humanity's resolve only hardened. Every disabled enemy ship, every maneuver that saved a comrade was a proof of their spirit. Hours passed in a blur of chaos. When the smoke cleared and the energy fields dimmed, the humans had held their ground. Several Draconian cruisers were destroyed, many more severely damaged. The Armada had underestimated the humans' will to survive, their ingenuity and their courage. On the observation deck, Voss looked at the stars beyond the battlefield. They were scarred by the glow of explosions and the trails of drifting wreckage. Yet amidst the devastation, humanity had proven its place among the stars. She allowed herself a small, rare smile. "We have survived," she said softly. "We have fought and we are not afraid." Below, the crew cheered quietly, exhausted but proud. For the first time, they realized that Earth had become more than a home. It was a symbol of defiance, of courage, of a species that refused to bow to tyranny. Humanity had stepped into the galaxy's war and left its mark. The Draconian Armada retreated, wounded but not defeated. They would return, and the humans knew it. Yet for the first time, the galaxy had witnessed something remarkable. A young, underestimated species had stood against the mightiest force in known space, and survived. Captain Voss turned to her officers. "Rest if you must, but be ready. The war is far from over. Humanity fights not for conquest, but for survival, and we will not falter." In the cold, endless void, a message rippled through space, whispered by survivors and allies alike. Earth has arrived. Humanity will not be denied. Humanity will endure. The Draconian Armada had retreated, but their shadow still hung over the stars. The galaxy watched in tense silence, waiting for the next strike. On the Resolute, Captain Liana Voss stood at the bridge, eyes scanning the distant blips of enemy activity. Humanity had survived the first brutal battles, but survival was not enough. Now it was time to strike back. "Prepare for coordinated assault," Voss commanded, her voice calm but filled with quiet fire. "We've seen their weaknesses. Today we hit hard, fast, and smart. We show them that Earth does not wait to be destroyed." The human Dreadnoughts moved with a precision the galaxy had never seen. They adapted tactics mid-flight, learning from every encounter. Small fighter squads darted between larger enemy cruisers, disabling shields, cutting communication lines, and sowing confusion. Each maneuver was calculated, each shot deliberate. Humans did not just fight. They outthought their enemy. Admiral Kyle, aboard the Aurora, observed the coordinated assault with awe. "They are relentless," he said quietly. "Humans take every danger and turn it into opportunity. They do not just survive. They dominate." The other commanders murmured agreement, though none could hide their amazement. The young species they had once overlooked now led the charge. The first clash erupted near a shattered asteroid field. The Draconians had prepared traps, expecting fear and hesitation. But humanity moved like a storm, weaving between obstacles, launching energy pulses that disabled enemy engines, and striking at weak points with surgical precision. Explosions lit the void, painting the darkness with fire and light, yet the humans pressed on without hesitation. On the Resolute, Voss coordinated every action. "Focus fire on their command ship," she ordered. "Once we take it down, the rest will falter." Her crew worked seamlessly, shields held, weapons fired, engines dodged. Human determination carried them forward, stronger than any shield or weapon. Even when a Draconian cruiser managed to breach their lines, the humans did not panic. Fighter squadrons flanked the enemy, while Dreadnoughts redirected energy to counterattacks. Engineers rerouted power under extreme pressure, patching holes, restoring shields, and keeping the fleet alive. Each crew member felt the intensity, the fear, the adrenaline, but also the pride of standing for something bigger than themselves. Hours of relentless fighting passed. Slowly, the tide began to turn. Draconian ships faltered, their formations broke, and the humans exploited every weakness. Systems that had once seemed invincible fell one by one. their destruction a testament to human courage, ingenuity, and teamwork. In a quiet moment on the observation deck, Voss allowed herself to look at the stars beyond the battlefield. Her voice, barely above a whisper, carried across the bridge. We are more than survivors. We are humans, and we fight not just to exist but to protect everything we love. That is strength no weapon can destroy. The Dreadnoughts advanced, relentless and unstoppable, ushing the enemy further back. Even Admiral Kale had to admit it aloud. Humanity is not just part of this war, they are shaping it. They are the spark that ignites hope. By the end of the day, the human fleet had destroyed nearly half of the enemy forces in the sector. The Draconian Armada, wounded and demoralized, retreated again, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. Humanity had not only survived, they had shown that they could fight and win, even against overwhelming odds. Back on the Resolute, the crew gathered quietly, exhausted but proud. The battles were far from over, but for the first time they felt something deeper than fear. Hope. Humanity had found its place among the stars, and every person aboard knew that their courage, ingenuity, and unity would define the coming war. Captain Voss looked at her crew and smiled softly. Today we have proven to the galaxy what Earth can do. But tomorrow we will do even more. Humanity is not just alive. Humanity is unstoppable. And far beyond the human fleet, in the shadows of the retreating armada, the Draconians whispered a warning to themselves. Earth has arrived. Humanity will not be denied. Humanity will not stop. The galaxy shook with the sound of war. The Draconian Armada, furious from repeated defeats, had returned with their largest fleet yet. Their massive ships filled the void like moving fortresses, shields glowing ominously, weapons charged to incinerate anything in their path. Captain Liana Voss stood on the bridge of the Resolute, her eyes scanning the endless sea of enemy vessels. Her heart pounded, not from fear but from determination. Humanity had come too far to falter now. All hands, brace for impact. Voss's voice cut through the bridge, calm but commanding. This is our fight. We will not give an inch. The crew moved with practiced precision. Shields reinforced, weapons primed, engines ready to dodge and strike. Every person aboard knew what was at stake. Not just their lives, but Earth, humanity, and the countless worlds relying on them. The first clash erupted in a storm of fire and energy. Plasma bolts streaked across space. Missiles tore through the void, and fighter squadrons danced between enormous cruisers. The human fleet moved like a living organism, weaving through enemy formations, striking weak points, and adapting faster than anyone could anticipate. Captain Voss coordinated every action, her voice a steady guide in the chaos. Target their lead destroyer. Flank from the starboard. Focus fire! Human ingenuity shone brighter than any weapon. Engineers rerouted power under pressure, gunners fired with precision, and navigators found paths through asteroid fields and debris that the Draconians believed impassable. Admiral Kale, observing from the Aurora, could hardly believe what he saw. They fight with heart, he murmured, awe in his voice. No species has ever turned fear into strength like this. Humanity. They are extraordinary. His officers nodded, their eyes wide. Humans did not merely react. They anticipated, adapted, and struck with courage that defied logic. The battle raged for hours. Ships collided, shields shattered, and explosions painted the stars with brilliant light. On the Resolute, alarms blared as hull plating cracked under heavy fire. Medics rushed to tend the wounded, while engineers worked tirelessly to restore power and maintain shields. Every person aboard faced danger, yet none wavered. Humanity's unity, their will to protect each other, made them stronger than steel. In the heart of the chaos, Voss saw a chance. A massive Draconian command cruiser, surrounded by its escorts, had exposed a weak point in its shields. All firepower, focus here, she shouted. Every dreadnought and fighter squadron obeyed instantly, concentrating beams, missiles, and plasma strikes on the target. The cruiser trembled, shields flickered, and then it exploded in a violent burst, debris scattering across the void. The effect was immediate. The enemy fleet faltered, formations breaking as panic rippled through the armada. Humanity pressed the advantage, relentless, pushing forward with courage that inspired every ally nearby. The humans fought not for glory or conquest, but for survival, and for the world they called home. On the observation deck, Voss allowed herself a brief moment to breathe. She looked at the stars scarred by battle and whispered, "We are strong because we fight together. We are human, and nothing can break that." Her crew, watching her words, felt a surge of pride, hope, and determination. They were not just soldiers. They were guardians of humanity, defenders of Earth, and warriors of the stars. By the end of the day, the human fleet had turned the tide. The Draconian armada, battered and demoralized, retreated into the darkness. Humanity had survived the fiercest battle yet, proving to the galaxy that courage, unity, and ingenuity could overcome even the most formidable foe. Captain Voss addressed her crew, her voice steady despite exhaustion. "Today we have not only fought, we have inspired. Humanity stands tall among the stars. Remember this moment. Remember that fear is nothing against courage. Remember that together, we are unstoppable." And far beyond the battlefield, the Draconian commanders whispered a warning, trembling with disbelief. Earth's children fight like no others. Humanity cannot be defeated. The void of space was alive with tension. The Draconian armada, though battered and weakened, had gathered one final strike force. Their massive ships loomed like shadows of doom, weapons charged and ready to crush anything in their path. Yet across the stars, the human dreadnoughts moved with unwavering resolve. Captain Liana Voss stood on the bridge of the Resolute, eyes blazing with determination. This was the moment humanity had been preparing for, the chance to prove that courage and will could overcome any force, no matter how mighty. "All hands, final engagement." Voss's voice rang clear, strong, and fearless. "We fight not just for Earth, but for every world that believes in hope. Today we decide the fate of the galaxy." Her crew responded instantly, hearts and minds united. Every human aboard understood what was at stake, and fear was replaced with fierce determination. The battle began with a deafening roar of energy and fire. The armada unleashed volleys of plasma and missiles, but the human fleet had learned, adapted, and now anticipated every move. Fighters weaved between enemy cruisers, exploiting weak points, while dreadnoughts fired coordinated volleys that tore through shields and armor. Humanity's ingenuity was unmatched. Every maneuver, every strategy reflected the unity and courage of a species refusing to bow. Admiral Kale watched from the Aurora, awestruck. "They are not just fighting," he said. "They are shaping the battle itself, humanity. They are a force of nature." His words echoed across the command bridge. Even the most seasoned commanders could not deny the brilliance of human strategy, nor the relentless courage that drove them forward. On the Resolute, Captain Voss spotted the command ship of the Draconian fleet, the heart of their power. "All firepower, concentrate on their flagship," she ordered. The human fleet obeyed without hesitation. Beams, missiles, and plasma struck simultaneously, each attack precise and deadly. The enemy ship shuddered, shields flickered, and cracks appeared across its hull. The Draconian armada faltered. Panic rippled through their forces as humans pressed relentlessly. Fighter squadrons disabled key systems, dreadnoughts cut off escape routes, and the enemy command ship, once untouchable, burned in a storm of fire and light. Humanity had taken the battle to the very heart of the armada, and victory was within reach. Even as explosions lit the stars, Captain Voss remained calm, guiding her crew with unwavering focus. "Protect each other, strike with courage, and never falter," she whispered. Her words carried across the fleet, instilling hope and strength. Humanity fought not just with weapons, but with spirit, with unity, and with an unbreakable will. The final moments were intense. The Draconian command ship exploded in a brilliant flare, scattering debris across space. Enemy formations collapsed, their remaining ships retreating in chaos and defeat. Humanity had not only survived, they had triumphed. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. A young, underestimated species had faced the most powerful force known and emerged victorious. On the bridge of the Resolute, the crew cheered, tears mixing with sweat, exhaustion, and relief. Captain Voss allowed herself a smile, her heart swelling with pride. "We have fought together. We have endured. We have shown the galaxy who we are. Humanity will never be forgotten." Across the stars, survivors and allies transmitted messages of hope. Earth had proven its strength, courage, and determination. The Draconian armada would not strike again for a long time, and the legend of humanity's defiance would spread across the galaxy. And in that quiet moment, as engines hummed and stars shone through the observation deck, Voss whispered to herself, "We are humans. We fight, we survive, and we will never give up." Humanity had joined the Galactic War, but more than that, they had become a symbol, a beacon of hope, courage, and unity, a species small in number but mighty in spirit, capable of standing against any threat, defying any odds. The galaxy had learned a truth that would echo for generations. Earth's children are unstoppable. The stars, silent witnesses to the battle, seemed to shine brighter that day. For humanity had stepped into the void and claimed its place among the stars, not as prey but as warriors, guardians and champions. And the story of their courage would inspire the galaxy forever.